Why? The man who chases always loses. Have you ever felt the sting of chasing someone who never looked back? You tried harder. You texted first. You cleared your schedule. You did everything they said. Women wanted attention, affection, effort. And yet she pulled away. Cold replies, canceled plans. Silence. It's confusing, even painful. But here's the brutal truth, that most men are never taught chasing kills attraction. It screams desperation. And nothing is more repelling than a man who doesn't even value his own presence. This isn't about games, it's about human psychology. Women are not drawn to men who are always available, always eager, always one step behind. They are drawn to men who stand still, grounded in self-worth, while the world revolves around them. Why? Because value isn't something you shout. It's something you embody. Imagine two men. One floods her phone with messages desperate to stay on her radar. The other is warm when they're together present kind. But when he's gone, he's truly gone. He's at the gym, he's building his business. He's with friends, focused on becoming someone. Even he admires. Guess which man? She starts thinking about late at night. It's not just about scarcity, it's about respect. When you chase, you tell her you are the prize. I am the applicant. You strip yourself of masculine energy. You become the follower. You telegraph that her validation matters more than your mission, and in doing so, you lose her respect before you ever have a chance to earn her love. Here's what Machiavelli would say if he were alive today. He who rushes to give himself away ends up with nothing. Real power never begs. It never hurries. It never apologizes for not being easily won. So stop trying so hard to be seen. Let her wonder why you're not texting first. Let her notice that you're not waiting for her reply. Let her feel your absence, because absence, not presence, creates longing. The more time and effort she puts into wondering where you are, the more emotionally invested she becomes. Human beings value what they must work for, what isn't freely given, what isn't always within reach. This doesn't mean becoming cold or cruel. It means becoming centered. Stop chasing women. Start chasing purpose. Wake up and chase your goals. Hit the gym. Build something. Learn something. Women don't want men who orbit them. They want men who are orbiting something greater. Something worth following. And when she reaches out, be present, be kind, be grounded, but do not lose yourself in trying to win her. You are not here to audition. You are not here to qualify. You are here to live. She's welcome to walk beside you, but she must keep up. That's the difference between a boy begging for attention and a man inviting a woman into his world. So the next time you feel the urge to text first again, pause. The next time you consider canceling your plans just to see her, pause. Ask yourself, am I pursuing her because she's special or because I don't believe I am? When you stop chasing, something powerful happens. The game flips. You become the one she thinks about, the one she wants to understand, the one she begins to pursue. Not because of manipulation, but because you're no longer drowning in need. You've become the prize. The rare man who doesn't hand himself over on a silver platter, and in a world full of men who chase. That kind of man becomes unforgettable. If she can read you like a book, she'll close the cover. In the beginning, mystery isn't a tactic, it's an atmosphere. It's the subtle pause before you speak the story. You don't finish the glimpse of depth she can't quite define. Most men think connection is built through full disclosure, spilling every detail of their past, flooding conversation with feelings and laying their life bare like a resume. But attraction doesn't grow in clarity, it grows in curiosity. Think of the movies you can't stop watching. The ones where the lead character doesn't say much, but every word he does say matters. He holds back just enough to keep you leaning in. That's the kind of man who captivates, not because he hides something, but because he guards something. When you reveal too much too soon, you rob her of the thrill of discovery, and humans especially. Women are wired for emotional storytelling. They want to peel back the layers. They want to earn access to who you are. If she learns everything about you in the first few dates, what's left to uncover? Now, imagine this. You're on a first date. She asks about your life. One man responds with a nervous flood of information, listing his job, childhood ex's trauma, and dreams all in a single breath. Another man smiles, shares a little about his current passion project, drops one or two personal values, and says, "There's a story there, but I'll save that one for another time." Which man makes her lean forward? Which man lingers in her mind afterward? Mystery isn't manipulation, it's pacing. It's the emotional equivalent of leaving the lights dimmed instead of blinding her with high beams, and when done right, it pulls her in without you lifting a finger. She'll think about you, not because of what you gave her, but because of what you didn't. She'll imagine the stories you haven't told, the passions you haven't revealed, the life she hasn't fully entered. That's what makes mystery magnetic. Machiavelli once wrote that appearances matter more than reality because people judge what they can see, not what they cannot. In dating, this means your presence should suggest depth. Your energy should hint at layers beneath the surface. Don't post your whole life online. Don't overshare in texts. Don't explain every motive or intention like you're trying to justify yourself. Just live. Let her observe, let her wonder, and unpredictability matters too. Not chaos, just subtle surprise. One day, you might take her to a quiet bookstore cafe. Another, you vanish for 24 hours to go hiking alone. She doesn't know every move, and that's the point. If you're not always available, not always explaining, not always predictable, she's thinking about you. That's where desire lives, in the gap between moments. So don't be afraid to leave a little space in the conversation. Don't answer every question with a monologue. Let silence speak. Let your life show through your actions, not just your words. Reveal yourself like a slow-burning novel, chapter by chapter, not like a social media bio desperate for approval. In a world addicted to oversharing, mystery is rare, and what's rare is valuable. Make her curious, make her wait. Not to frustrate, but to fascinate, because once she's hooked on the feeling of not knowing everything, she'll keep coming back, just to learn a little more. And that's how attraction becomes obsession. What if I told you the strongest man in the room isn't the loudest, but the one who doesn't flinch? In the modern dating world, most men believe they need to impress with wealth, looks, or cleverness. But there's a deeper, more primal truth. Few understand. Emotional control is the ultimate attractor, because in a world that constantly provokes you, calm is power. Let's get brutally honest. Most men today are emotionally fragile. A delayed text, a missed call, a subtle tease, and suddenly they spiral. Their mind races. Insecurity floods in. They panic, overthink, overreact, and in that moment they expose everything. Their weakness, their desperation, their fear of not being enough. That is where the attraction dies. Because no matter how much a woman likes you, the second she senses that your emotional world is at the mercy of hers, she loses respect. She might not say it out loud, but she feels it. And once respect is gone, attraction fades like smoke. Now imagine a different kind of man. He doesn't chase, he doesn't complain, he doesn't explode, he doesn't beg for reassurance. He observes, he adjusts, he stays grounded. When others crumble, he is calm in chaos. He is sovereign in storms. He is a fortress in a world full of noise. That's the man who captures her attention and keeps it. Machiavelli knew this in The Prince. He didn't write about love or charm or emotion. He wrote about strategy, control, and presence. He advised rulers to be calculating, not reactive, because a ruler who panics is a ruler who falls. In dating, this means you must stop letting a single woman control your emotional weather. Whether she replies in 2 minutes or 2 hours, your value doesn't change. If she's cold one day, warm the next, you remain steady, because you are not auditioning for her approval. You are living your life, and she's either aligned with your path or not. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming centered. It means recognizing that your emotions are yours to govern, not hers, to manipulate intentionally or unintentionally. Many women, consciously or not, will test this. They'll tease you, cancel plans, delay replies, or stir mild jealousy, not out of cruelty, but instinctively. They want to know, is this man emotionally mature? Can he handle himself, or will he crumble under pressure like the rest? The man who masters himself doesn't take the bait. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't beg for clarity. He simply observes the pattern and makes decisions accordingly. Maybe he smiles, makes other plans, or even distances himself. But he never loses composure, and that stillness, that quiet strength, is intoxicating. Think of a time when you overreacted. Maybe you sent too many texts. Maybe you got angry when she pulled away. How did it feel afterward? That pit in your stomach wasn't just regret. It was the realization that you gave away your power. But what if instead you had breathed, waited, and responded with poise? What if your self-worth had stayed intact, untouched by external drama? That's not just attraction, that's self-respect. And women are drawn to men who respect themselves. So how do you build this emotional mastery? You practice restraint. When anxiety rises, you pause. When you're tempted to explain yourself excessively, you hold back. When jealousy creeps in, you don't deny it. You observe it, then you let it pass, without letting it define your behavior. You move with intention, not impulse. A man who cannot rule himself is unfit to lead anything, especially a relationship. So ask yourself, are you her rock or are you her echo? Do you amplify her chaos or do you balance it with clarity? Because the moment she sees that her behavior doesn't destabilize you, she leans in. Not because she wants to manipulate, but because she trusts the space you create. Emotional control isn't repression, it's refinement. It doesn't mean you feel less, it means you own what you feel without becoming a prisoner to it. And in that ownership, in that stoic strength, you become rare. In a sea of reactive boys, you become a composed man. And that is unforgettable. How a woman treats you is often a reflection of what you allow. So let me ask you, what have you been tolerating? Most men today confuse kindness with weakness. They think if they're endlessly patient, endlessly available, and endlessly agreeable, they'll be rewarded with affection. But here's the brutal truth. No woman respects a man she can walk all over. In fact, the very act of being too accommodating, too soft, too spineless, it kills attraction at its root. Respect is not something you ask for. It's not something you beg for. It's something you command, not through anger, not through threats, but through boundaries. Clear, calm, unshakable. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." In relationships, this doesn't mean you become tyrannical or cruel. It means you become a man whose self-respect is non-negotiable, a man who communicates with his presence alone. You don't get to treat me however you want. Let's get real. Have you ever let a woman cancel plans last minute without consequence? Have you ever allowed disrespectful jokes to slide because you didn't want to ruin the vibe? Have you stayed silent when she crossed your line because you feared pushing her away? Each of those moments chipped away at her respect for you. Not because she's heartless, but because you taught her you don't stand for yourself. And if you don't stand for yourself, you can't lead, you can't protect, and you can't inspire. Now think of the opposite, a man who sets firm boundaries not with rage, but with poise. If a woman speaks to him with disrespect, he calmly addresses it. If she flakes repeatedly, he stops rescheduling. If she tests him, he responds with clarity, not emotional outbursts. That man may cause tension in the short term, but he gains long-term respect. Because women test not to destroy, but to discover. They want to know, is this a man I can count on to hold the line, not just with me, but in life? When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You become someone who doesn't need to raise his voice because his silence already speaks volumes. You become the kind of man who can walk away if needed, and that's exactly why people want to stay. The boundary-setting man doesn't tolerate passive aggression, guilt trips, or manipulation. He doesn't allow a relationship to become one-sided. He holds his standard, and those who want to be in his life must rise to meet it. And yes, this means being willing to lose someone who doesn't respect you. That's the part most men are afraid of. But here's the twist. The moment you're willing to walk away is the moment you become most attractive, because you're no longer operating from fear, you're operating from principle. She may resist at first, she may test harder, but eventually she'll feel something she hasn't felt in a long time. Safety. Not because you coddled her, but because you showed her where the edges are. And deep down, every woman craves a man who cannot be moved by guilt, chaos, or charm. a man who stands his ground because he knows who he is. So set boundaries not as punishment, but as protection for your value. Protect your time, protect your peace, protect your self-worth. And if someone refuses to honor that, let them go, because respect is the soil where love grows. Without it, nothing beautiful can survive. What happens to a man when he abandons his mission for a woman? The answer is simple and devastating. He loses both. His purpose fades, and eventually, so does her attraction. You were not born to orbit someone else's life. You were born to build a kingdom of your own. That's what sovereignty means. Not domination, not arrogance, but unshakable loyalty to your mission even when love enters the picture. Here's the brutal truth. Most men don't hear the moment you sacrifice your direction to follow her path. You stop being the man she was attracted to, and suddenly the same woman you rearranged your world for begins to pull away. Not because she's ungrateful, but because deep down, she can no longer feel safe in your orbit. Your strength wasn't real, it was borrowed, and borrowed strength always comes due. A sovereign man is rooted, he has a clear mission, whether it's his career, his art, his craft, or his calling, and he pursues it with discipline. His schedule doesn't collapse. The second a woman texts, "I miss you," he's available for love. Yes, but he's never available 24/7. Not because he plays games, but because he has a life to live. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her want him more. A man who is governed by purpose emits a different energy. He doesn't chase, he doesn't cling, he doesn't collapse into obsession. He offers presence, not dependency. And when a woman enters his world, it feels like she's being invited into something bigger, something anchored, something powerful. But when a man gives up his routine, his ambition, his passion, all to be more available, for a woman, he's not being romantic, he's being reckless because no woman wants to be your mission. It's too much pressure, too much weight, and eventually that burden breaks the bond. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He advised princes to never rely on the favor of others, to never be at the mercy of shifting loyalties. He would scoff at a man who gives up his identity to impress a lover. His lesson was clear. If you want to rule your world, you must first refuse to be ruled by anyone else's approval. This doesn't mean you become cold or emotionally unavailable. It means your emotional center is internal, not external. When you stay rooted in purpose, you become a stable presence, not just to yourself, but to others. A woman feels safer around you because you're not easily swayed. You're not needy. You're not looking for her to complete you. You're complete already, and you simply want to share the ride. So what does this look like in real life? It means you don't cancel the gym because she suddenly wants to hang out. You reschedule. It means you prioritize your work, your goals, your commitments, and you invite her to see the value in that. If she's the right one, she won't resent your focus, she'll respect it. Because deep down, every high-value woman wants a man who is going somewhere and who won't abandon that direction just to get her validation. Sovereignty also means emotional independence. If she's gone for a few days, you don't spiral. If she's busy, you don't panic. You live, you grind, you grow. And that self-sufficiency, it's magnetic. It tells her, I want you, but I don't need you to survive. There's a world of difference between those two mindsets. One is rooted in confidence, the other in desperation. So ask yourself honestly, are you still the leader of your own life, or have you become a passenger in someone else's? Machiavelli's wisdom teaches that a sovereign man bends the world to his will, not by force, but by staying centered in his vision. And when he walks with that kind of clarity, the right people naturally align with him. He doesn't chase relationships, he attracts them. In the end, being sovereign doesn't mean walking alone, it means walking forward, no matter who joins or leaves your path. That is the essence of masculine power, a man who moves regardless of applause. So stay the course, love who you love, but never abandon your direction, because your mission is the magnet, and purpose is the most powerful form of attraction there is. In today's world, where attention is currency and emotional availability is often mistaken for weakness, the path to becoming an attractive, grounded man is not through charm or performance, but through purpose, discipline, and sovereignty. The core message is simple, yet profound. Stop chasing and start becoming. The most magnetic men aren't the loudest or the richest. They are the ones who carry themselves with self-respect, who know their mission in life, and who set boundaries without apology. Women and people in general are drawn to those who value themselves first. If you want respect, don't demand it. Command it through consistent action. If you want love, don't beg for it. Attract it by being whole without it. Machiavelli's lessons remind us that true power lies in restraint, in knowing when to speak, when to walk away, and when to stand firm. A man who is emotionally in control, purpose-driven, and unwilling to trade his mission for momentary approval is rare, and rare is valuable. The challenge, then, is not to manipulate others, but to master yourself. Build your life, own your time, protect your energy. Lead yourself first so that when others do enter your world, they're stepping into something already worth respecting. Because the truth is, you don't need to prove your worth to anyone when you already live like you know it.